You know what would make Poppy Playtime Chapter 2 worse? Lots and lots of fire. So today, let's see if we can actually beat the game while Playtime Co is burning around us. I hope you enjoy. Absurd challenges like this, where the building is completely on fire, are made with the generous help of sponsors like Bloodline Heroes of Lithis. Bloodline Heroes of Lithis is a free-to-play fantasy RPG for iOS and Android, where you must collect champions as you build your kingdoms, and then eventually combine their bloodlines through marriage to create legendary heirs. Different bloodlines yield different abilities in combat, which give you the edge in battle. From orcs, demons, dragonborn, and lycans, new legends will be born as you develop your family tree and prepare for war. There's a lot of clan-based characters to collect, like the Lycanis, who are werewolf assassins, and the Fulgur demigods, who have powerful area of effect skills. Champions' genders can be swapped to your preference, and the more powerful their relationship is with one another, the stronger their child will be. If you use my link in the description, or scan the QR code on screen, you'll start the game with both a Karg, a Dragonborn clan member who can transform to dragons, and a half Dragonborn, half demigod hybrid heir to start your grand adventure with. And to top things off, you'll get a $30 starter bonus. Start your adventure today by downloading the game, and a big thanks to Bloodline Heroes of Lithis for sponsoring this video. I hope you have your marshmallows ready, because there's going to be a lot of fire. So the challenge today is to try to beat the second chapter, except every time we move a second behind us, a new patch of fire will spawn. And this fire behaves sort of like the game Snake. These patches of fire will spawn no matter what, which will force our player to move, because if we touch the fire at all, we will die. And over time, the old fire will go out as new fire is brought into the game. So we have to manage where we're walking, and basically we can never stop moving. And this changes things quite a bit. So let's get started. Trying this out for the first time, I realized how difficult this was going to be. The first hallway we spawn in has a gray door that we have to open. But we actually cannot stand there and open the gray door. If we do, we will die. So we have to open the gray door and walk around this room, sort of in a circular pattern, as we let the fire burn out from where we once were. And this right here sort of shapes how this entire experience is going to go. Anything that slows us down, anything that tries to stop us is going to equal death. So as I move down this hallway, I'm just thinking about getting that first key and how annoying that's going to be. So we come across this pocket where we have to swing across, and then we come into this small room that has barrels stacked in front of a door, and the key is behind it. Now, we cannot stop to move any of these barrels. We have to grab them and keep moving and pull them out of the way while we go back down the hallway and let the fire burn out from where we just walked. And we have to be very careful not to touch the fire, because if we die, we go back to the start of the game. And so I keep going around in circles, pulling barrel by barrel, and then I know the door is going to be a pain in the butt to open because it does not just open instantly. It is a very slow open, which means I'll die if I sit there. So I open the door, and then I'm still walking around, avoiding fire, and I go back and I'm not thinking. I'm like, oh, I'll just pick up the key. Well, no, because I die. So, doing all this over again, I realize I cannot enter this room at all. I have to grab the key from afar and basically do a drive-by hand shooting into that room and grab it and then make my way to Ludwig's office. So yeah, things are definitely going smoothly. We use the key on Ludwig's door, and we avoid getting burned while we're doing so by moving around. And then we make our way back into Ludwig's office, and we have to pull down the vent cover as fire is engulfing his office. And again, we're making some laps here. We're gonna go around the desk. We pull the vent down, we get in the vent, and we just move straight. But the fire is behind us this entire time. And the red glow is actually very ominous. It constantly reminds you to not stop moving. And as we make our way down into the first puzzle room, this is where I get a bit frustrated. So trying to do this puzzle with fire behind you is very annoying. So again, we have to keep making a loop, but we have to make sure that our extended arm isn't getting caught on random things or glitching out. And we have to be careful because we cannot enter the small area where the end of the puzzle is. Doing so would trap us and kill us. Eventually, with some tinkering and a death or two, we solve this puzzle, and then we can move on. Or so to speak, because the next annoying part is trying to get back up into the vent without dying. You basically get one shot at this. If you mess up, you're going to be standing in place and you're going to die. And if you die, you go all the way back to the beginning, meaning we have to do all of that again. So yeah, it's very frustrating, but eventually we can grab the handle up above and make our way back through the office into the hallway. We can open the double hand door by moving around. We can swing across the giant gap. We come across another door that we open slowly, and we try to avoid dying while it opens. And then we don't wait for Poppy to talk to us. We jump straight down to the slide because we have no time to waste. Now, the way fire spawns, it actually spawns below you and comes out of the floor, so we actually die in the slide. However, one of the times doing this, I did hit a save point, and when I loaded in, I was at the bottom of the slide. So our run is saved. Well, sorta. You see, the next electrical puzzle is a pain in the butt. So much so that it's actually impossible to do in the current state of the game. The reason being is these areas that you're standing on are so thin that there's no room to avoid the fire that's going to come in and kill you. Eventually, you'll have to backtrack, and at that point, you will die. Now, the only way I know how to clear this room under these circumstances is with the very first version of the game. I am not a speedrunner. I am not good at speedrun techniques, but in the first version of the game, at least to my understanding, this does not exist in other versions because I tried it. Apparently, you can glitch out this puzzle by shooting your hand at the left switch, which sparks a small amount of electricity, and then touch your arm to the left pole while moving to the right and shooting your hand to the right, doing the same. And your arms, for some reason, will not disconnect when the gates come up, and you can solve this puzzle relatively quickly. Doing so would allow you to clear this room very, very fast and get out of there with one fell swoop without having to backtrack and die. So with this, we can actually move on to the next hallway, which has Mommy Longlegs. And we just kind of have to wait this out. As Mommy Longlegs is talking to us, we're running around with our pants on fire, basically trying to stick to the edges of the hallway so that we can create this outward movement and cause our fire snake to basically loop in on itself. So we can keep doing this over and over. And this is a technique we're going to use a lot in this run because it's absolutely necessary. Once Mommy Longlegs is done yelling at us and ripping off her hand, we enter the game station. And finally, we have some room to run around. The fire is not really a threat here because there's so much area we can move in, so we make our way up and pull the switch to open musical memory. And of course, as we make our way to musical memory, we have a slight detour. We have to go out into some tunnels, and then we make our way to the green hand room, because we need to restore our hand. Now the fire, this entire time, is brightening up the room. That's one of the things I really like about this. The glow of the fire brightens up every dark space in this game, and it kind of makes this whole experience different. So I really have to think about how I'm going to manufacture this green hand while there's fire after me. And I'm thinking about the different paths I have to take, and basically it's a lot of going around in circles and hitting a switch once and then waiting to repeat that action. And it doesn't get really complicated until we have to go up and grab the paint. So that door opens in the back, we start making our way up the staircase, and the paint can is very far away, and I know that if I grab it and try to backtrack, I'm going to die. So we have to grab the paint, and we actually have to jump down and go in a big loop so that the fire follows us and that the fire extinguishes itself where we once were. So we make our way back up the staircase now with the paint. We do a drive-by paint insert and then jump down below. And then we queue up the paint, we paint the hands, and then we move the hands outward so we can grab it. And then we open the door with a new hand, all while under the grace of walking away from fire. Now, as we start moving to musical memory, this challenge reminds me a lot of the Cosmic Clone challenges I would do on my other channel, SwankyBox. Like basically, you're managing a line behind you, except in this challenge, we have one hit point. We cannot make a mistake at all, and that's what makes it very challenging. So actually, the slower you move is actually better, but you can't move too slow, otherwise you will die. Because if we move slower, the way the fire spawns in, it will actually be closer together as opposed to being more spread out. And this is very crucial for musical memory. I honestly thought this was not going to be possible, but doing a fire challenge in musical memory is very intense. As the instructions are playing out, we are basically doing a giant fire Congo line, trying to hopefully not die and hopefully not run into the end of the fire trail from before. We are going around and around on the outer edges of this platform, and I know this is how it's going to be. This is how the musical memory challenge is going to have to be beaten. And as the game starts, I had to basically stagger my walking so I'm not moving too fast while staying to the outer edges of the platform while also turning around and hitting the various switches that come up. And getting the flow of this is a bit challenging. It's very easy to just mess up and die. Bunzo is not even in my mind. I'm just preoccupied by the fire, and as the rounds progress and things get more hectic, I am like sweating. Now, I can personally say that I've never played Extreme Life or Death Bop It in a burning house before, but here we are. As the switches appear around the circle and things get more intense, I find myself having to constantly turn around and hit the switches while also moving backwards and forward and all this different stuff to maintain my position, and it's a bit tough. Eventually, we can make it through musical memory, and we hit the final switch, and as the puzzle comes to a close, we grab our train ticket, and we try to go down the ramp, and we die. I was not thinking because fire spawns below you, so if you're moving downward, you're going to die quicker than if it was coming from behind you. So yeah, I die. Luckily, we spawn at the end of the challenge, and we do this over again, and this time I remember to jump off the sloped platform, and then we make our way around, we grab the handle to the vent, and we pull it away as we're walking away, and we make a big loop and then go inside the vent. The crawling speed is just fast enough to make it so you do not die from the fire, which I was worried about because I actually didn't really test it before that. And as we make our way through this vent, we come out into the abandoned toy room or the archive room. Now, I already know this puzzle is going to be a pain in the butt, so we're not gonna do it. We're gonna skip it. So as I'm running from the fire, I know we can grab the ball up above and pull it to the weighted platform where Braun is at. Now we have to be extra careful because obviously we cannot backtrack or wait for the ball to come to us, but once we get into place, we can just hop on up and then hop to this next section and we're done. We skip this entire room. Now as I make my way down to the next puzzle, I realize I'm going to come across a problem because I do not have time to wait for this elevator, and I quickly die realizing this. But upon death, the ball actually resets its position. And I get thinking, well, if I grab this ball, I can pull around this hallway and possibly put it on the elevator and make it so I do not have to use the elevator at all to get to the upper electrical switch. And I'm feeling really good about this. Now, I try this over and over again and realize I keep dying at stupid parts. But eventually, I use the ball, jump up, loop it around, come down below, loop it around that one, and then open the puzzle up. And if I'm careful, which I wasn't, I die the first time I completed the puzzle, but the second time I'm more careful where I'm stepping so the fire does not kill me, and we make our way up, we hop on the ball, and we make it to the next room. And from here, it's smooth sailing back to the game station, where we open up our second area. Now it's time to tackle Whack-A-Wuggy. And getting down to Whack-A-Wuggy isn't really a problem, it's actually a straight shot, and luckily, Whack-A-Wuggy itself is a giant room. This gives us plenty of space to move around. We don't really have to worry about running into our fire, but it does change this experience quite a lot. Normally, when playing this game, I just stand in the middle, but we have to keep moving this time. And I actually forgot I had a mod on that changed Huggy Wuggies to Mommy Longlegs, so we're getting invaded by lots of Mommy Longlegs while doing this fire challenge. And I have to say, I think I barely got past this. I didn't die at all, but I felt like as I was going around, a lot of the Mommy Longlegs were just at the point where they're gonna jump me. Because I had to keep moving, I couldn't really focus on the things behind me, I had to focus on what was in front of me. And right at the end, right when I thought I was gonna die, we beat the challenge. So we get ourselves a new piece of the train ticket, and we move on to the next room, which is a pain in the butt. Man, this room sucks so bad. You have to like fumble your way up top while not getting burned, and you only get one chance to do it. And if you die, luckily we do not have to go through Whack-A-Wuggy again, but we do have to wait through Mommy Longlegs dialogue. And the only way to beat this room, I think, with the fire is basically you get one shot to get up top. There were times where I didn't make it up top and I tried to recover. I was like halfway up and jumping off and tried to grab the thing up above me, but the fire spawned in midair and killed me. So we basically had to jump onto the staircase railing and look up and hope we grab this at the right time, pull ourselves up, and if all the stars align, we'll make it past this very annoying room and we move on. Now it's not all sunshine and rainbows because we're coming to the berry challenge next. And this challenge with fire is quite difficult. So we wait for Kissy Missy to do her thing, but as we enter the challenge, we just have to be careful. We need to make sure we're always walking near the edges of the hallway, because if we step in the center, we basically screw ourselves because we won't be able to go back down the hallway. Like everything in here has to be like a 10,000 IQ play, because not only are you managing electricity in your hand, but you can't stop moving and you always have to be spatially aware and be close to walls, so if you somehow need to backtrack, you will not die. And the first two switches are very doable, but when we get to that final door that requires 2 energy switches, man, I wanted to pull my hair out. It was so awful. It just sucks because you spend all this time getting there, and if you die, you have to do all of it over again. After running the route a few times, I eventually get it though, and we pull Barry through the hallway, and then we die. I don't know exactly how we died. I'm thinking somehow a fire spawn got me, even though I thought it was okay. But luckily, Barry moving down this ramp is a checkpoint. So we spawn back in, and we can move forward. Now it's time to head back to the game station and open up the statues minigame with PJ Pugapillar. And honestly, I'm a bit worried because I'm thinking this is a minigame where you have to not move, which means I'm going to die the second I stop moving. But I do have an idea about how we can possibly get around this, and I'm kind of curious to check it out. But before we get to PJ Pugapillar, we actually have an electrical puzzle which is very, very hard. And the reason why it's hard is because we have to go up vertically to 2 different areas. And anytime we're moving up vertically, basically we're creating a tower of fire behind us, so that if we don't let go of the handle at the top, we are going to touch the fire below us and die. And quite honestly, I do not know if this puzzle is possible. I had a lot of trouble with it. I just kept dying. Now, I'm not saying it's impossible, but for the sake of the run, I don't want to get hung up here, and I'll tell you my theory on how I think it is possible. If this puzzle is possible, the way you would do it is you would actually go up top and you would walk across this very thin strip of land from the first area to the second area. In doing so, hypothetically, if the stars aligned, would make it so that you could still keep your circular motion for this puzzle. That would allow you to come up on one side and fall down another, so you would not run into the fire you created before. But yeah, this puzzle's extremely frustrating. I don't know if this makes or breaks the run, but we're gonna move on. Now, going into PJ Pugapillar's room, I knew there was no way that I would be able to actually do this challenge the right way. I would just die the second I stopped moving. So I was thinking about all the different items that are in the previous hallway. You have these giant blocks, and these blocks can be moved. So we can grab one of these cubes and put it in front of us and then push it into the room or drag it into the room and then get it next to the castle pieces that sort of block you in at the beginning of the PJ Pugapillar challenge. Now, when you walk into this room, there's a very lengthy VHS tape and monologue from Mommy Longlegs, and ain't nobody got time for that.
Ain't nobody got time for that.
We are climbing over the castle, we are running for our lives while all this is going on, because until PJ Pugapillar appears, we don't have to worry about stopping. The lights aren't going to go off and on. We are basically free to do what we want until those tapes are over. So I'm sprinting madly towards the easy tunnel. We go up it, we come out, and at first I'm jumping across these cubes, but I quickly realize that any mistake I make is going to cause me to die. So of course I die, and in the second or third time I make my way to the same area, and I just decide to run up the side of it. I would rather move straight forward at a slower pace than trying to jump from all these different blocks, and as you can see, the fire is chasing me ever so closely, and then we reach up for the window, we swing through it, and I hurry my butt into the tunnel below. And of course, because I'm falling, there's a chance that the fire will spawn below me, and unfortunately it does, and it kills me. However, we get our checkpoint. So we're lucky because we spawn right here, we start off in the same spot, and now we get to run through this very brutal cavern section. We have this giant swing, we have 2 areas where we need to grapple up above us, and we basically have to have perfect timing for those grapples above us, because if we don't, we are going to die. It's very frustrating. We come around a bend, we go through a vent, we have another grapple above us, and we enter the giant metal staircase hallway and make our way to the water treatment area. And instantly, I get full of dread. I'm trying to think how I'm going to make it through the Bunzo room without dying. So basically, I have to hit the switch to rotate the platforms down below, and then drop down below and rotate around, and I can only hit the switch once per cycle, and eventually I get the shape I want, which is like this L shape, and we go into the elevator room. And trying to stay on the elevator as it's moving up and managing all this, impossible. I die. And I know I cannot do it that way. So I make my way back to this room again, and I realize I have to climb on the actual conveyor belts to beat this room. So the geometry on the actual elevator is really weird. You can double jump onto the pole near the corner and actually get some good height, which will allow you to jump off the elevator onto the different conveyor belts around the room. And we hit the red switch, we're going up top, and we have to be careful because there's a little ledge that sticks out that slows us down. It's very easy to die here. Like that, I just died. So we need to hit the red switch, the blue switch, and then the yellow switch as we're moving up, and then ultimately hitting the red switch up top so we can cause one of these to fall down below. All the while not stopping our movement so we don't die from the fire. And we also have to be careful as we're making our way down to not fall from a great height, because if we fall from a very high place, our character will get staggered and we will not be able to move away from the fire before it kills us. Then I grab that dang bunny and I make a sprint for it. Now the first time I tried this, I was actually pulling a barrel over here so we could do a speedrun skip. We can jump on top of the barrel and walk across some invisible collision over to this door, but I realized this was going to be a dead end. I would have nowhere to go and I would die. So unfortunately, I had to get Bunzo again. So this time I went up top and I was rotating the platforms so they aligned perfectly so I could just walk over, and I hugged the edges of it, and we have to, one, put Bunzo in the machine and then walk around, and then come back and open the door. We go through the vents and we have another electrical puzzle, and this one's a real treat. I was getting so frustrated at this puzzle, but it is possible. If we play our cards right and we keep moving and we manage where we're going, we just have to be careful that we move around the room clockwise when we get back inside of it so that we can actually clear this puzzle without stepping on our fire. And once we do, we go through the vent, we fall through the floor, and we die because fire spawns beneath us. And this is where the real fun begins. So luckily, before dying, we hit a checkpoint, which is this room, but this room is actually very difficult. The reason why it's difficult is Mommy Longlegs falls from above, and you have to keep rotating around the perimeter of the room, but the perimeter actually gets smaller because Mommy Longlegs is moving towards you, and she has the ability to push you if she touches you. So that means the room is actually getting smaller from one side, and if you're not careful and you don't predict where Mommy Longlegs is going to be, you'll get pushed into your fire and you'll die. And she talks for a very long time before the door opens. Honestly, I was inching towards thinking this was impossible to clear. Every time I would get close, she would just push me, and the opening became so small that I was basically forced to walk on top of my fire. But after many attempts, I finally got it to work. And as she started to count, I made a run for it through the door, and I hopped down below, and I was running through the dark, which was actually not the dark anymore because the fire was lighting it up. But this area is pretty straightforward until we get to the vents. Every time we get to a vent or drop down below, it's basically a coin flip if you're gonna die or not. And so I died a few times, but then we get to the final challenge area, which is a checkpoint, so we're safe, and we can move on. Now moving forward, we have the colored switch room, which is relatively easy as long as we remember what the actual colored switches are without having to go up top. We open the door, and then Mommy Longlegs begins chasing us back into this room. And this is where the run, ultimately, at least to my knowledge, comes to an end, maybe? I don't know. I can't get past this room. You have to go up top, and while you're up top, you just die because the fire spawns in at your feet. Perhaps if this challenge only put fire on the ground, it would be a different story, but as it is right now, we can't beat this room because Mommy Longlegs takes too long down below, and if we're down below at all, we will get jump scared. So I'm marking that down as unclearable and we're moving on. And the next room we come to is also unbeatable. Now, the actual room itself can be cleared. We grab the gear on the wall, and we have to crouch where we're putting in up top, and then we fall down below, and we run in a big circle as we activate the oven, and we can grab the gear inside the oven with our hand without having to go in. But ultimately, Mommy Longlegs begins chasing you, and this room gets sealed off, and you're supposed to go in the oven or furnace thing. But the issue is, it is too tight of a space, and your own fire will kill you. So this is also a room we cannot get past. However, we're going to trigger the final chase scene because I want to try it, and I'm really curious how it plays with fire. And honestly, the final chase is really not that different with fire. We just have to be careful when we fall down below into the sewers. That's really the only contention point, because every other instance is very much similar to if Mommy Longlegs was chasing you. Something behind you is going to kill you, whether it be fire or Mommy. And so we can make it through this area basically the same, and we come to the final hallway where we throw Mommy Longlegs into the grinder. Now for this, we just have to put our blue hand on the door and move around as we are letting our fire burn. And eventually the door opens and we throw Mommy Longlegs into the grinder. Now again, this is another very difficult room. It may not be impossible, but it feels impossible. Managing your fire for this super long cutscene is very difficult. And it's a problem because the room gets cut in half by an invisible wall. So we only have a very small area by the door that we can work with. There's a possibility it could be done. I was not able to do it, but I do want to show off the final aspect of the game. So we're going to move on. So we're running through this bay area with fire behind us. And this part is pretty much normal because I'm always moving really fast during this part anyways. And when we come out to the scaffolding, we move over to where Poppy is. And we just have to be careful. I went in the first time not really thinking, and I freed Poppy, but I didn't have enough time until she opened the door, so I died. Now doing this again, I took my time moving very slowly and hugging the walls while I did that section so that I could backtrack across the scaffolding and look behind me and see that the door was opening. And we have to backtrack all the way to the door that we came in and go all the way over to the slide and slide down. Down here though, even if everything else was possible, our run is coming to an end because it is not possible to do the train part in a timely manner or even at all. The only way the train would be possible is if both doors were open and you could enter one side, hit a button, and then exit the other, and then wait for the fire to burn out before going back through. And through each and every pass through the train, you would have to hit one button and move on. And this would take a very, very long time. But let's say you did that, hypothetically. Let's say you got the train code in and you started the train. Well, if you're inside the train, you're going to die. So you have to be outside the train. And if you're outside the train, well, the momentum from the train still affects your movement. So as you're running around trying to avoid the fire, as the train is moving and the ending is approaching, well, your movement is going to come to a halt because you'll eventually get pushed against the wall, or you'll be fighting against the momentum of the train, which normally moves the player, and it's going to force you into your own fire. So, yeah, you're gonna die. Even if every problem we came across in this run was solved, the ending will always kill us. So yeah, Poppy Playtime Chapter 2 cannot be beaten if Playtime Co is on fire. However, we can come pretty darn close. I hope you enjoyed this bizarre challenge, subscribe if you did, and I'll see you all soon on HorrorScoped. Cheers!